Hello and welcome to the beginning of our journey in Hebrew in Genesis 1. And so the way I picture this working is on Fridays, we will do the Hebrew of a verse from Genesis. And then on Wednesday and Friday, it'll be a patrons only look at the Septuagint of the same verse and then the Vulgate in Latin of the same verse. So welcome to Friday, Genesis 1:1. And so let's go ahead and see. Now, if you have some experience with Hebrew, you can go ahead and translate that. And if you don't, let me tell you what the translation is. So this letter here, ba, signifies in. And then reshit signifies beginning. Now, it's a very interesting form because it's a construct form. So you might translate it in beginning of or when beginning of. There's debate over exactly how this should be translated. So if it is a construct, then, the normal way this verse is translated is in the beginning, God, Elohim, created the heavens and the earth. That's the normal translation. However, it could be translated when or in the beginning of God created the heavens and the earth. The difference is one of whether this is a standalone verse, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, period, or whether this actually needs to be connected to the next verse, in which case we translated something like, when God began to create the heavens and the earth, it was formless and void and empty. So the first translation is a kind of ex nihilo translation. And the second translation is a kind of, the waters are already there. The waters are there, it's dark, it's chaotic. And then God says, let there be light. And he begins to create order out of the watery chaos. So, two interpretations of Genesis 1:1. As far as the translation, let me go into a little bit more detail. So in the beginning, or in beginning, the isn't actually there, but you wouldn't expect it with a construct. In beginning, or in beginning of, God, Elohim, bara, God created. This would be the verb. This is standard Hebrew practice to put the verb first and then the subject of it second. Now, et, or eight, v'eight, you can see these two look alike, right? It's not really translated. It basically says direct object approaching. And it's going to be a definite direct object. So this is the definite direct object marker. It says the direct object in grammar answers the question, what, after the verb. So if the verb is create, and you say, create what? Create the heavens and the earth, okay? And eight basically says the word that follows is the direct object, and it has a the in front of it. The actually comes from the ha on the front. Hebrew's a different language. By the way, if you don't know any Hebrew, hang around, you will. Even though, we don't like to be, probably the first human instinct, especially if you're a J personality, is, I don't know this, I need to start at the beginning. But really, you'll learn faster if you don't start at the beginning. Is that true? Well, I'm not starting at the beginning. I'm starting in the beginning. Anyway, so just hang out. If you can learn to just hang out, you'll learn it eventually. There'll be a moment like, click, whoa. Okay, so there's the quick and dirty translation. So let's look at the grammar a little bit. So what Hebrew does is Hebrew attaches little, what are called morphemes, not morpheme, but morphemes, attaches little morphemes to the front of things. Actually, hold that thought for just a second. And I'm back. I wanted to pull out the and. So like this ba, this is ba. By the way, the consonants are, for now, let me say, the consonants are what's written on the main attraction, the main line. These dots, these points underneath, were added later by the Masoretes in the Middle Ages to try to help us read it. If you could pick up a modern Hebrew newspaper, there's not going to be these dots underneath and dashes. These are the vowels underneath. Hebrew did not, in general, write the vowels in the text. So this the shava underneath is ba, and this is bait, ba, and the dot means it's a ba and not a va. But anyway, so this is ba, and ba means in, and so you attach. It's called a performative, or is it a performative? It's a prefix. Sorry, it's a prefix. We'll get to performatives later. So it's basically a word that has been shoved onto the front of reshit, which means head or beginning. And then bara is a third. Well, okay. So this is a preposition that's on the front, in, and you do that. This is and the and has been shoved onto the end on the beginning of the direct object marker. Okay, so this is God created. Bara is, okay, so here is some grammar speak. It is a particular stem. I'm calling it the G stem, although the old way of doing it would be to call it the Qal stem, Q-A-L. That basically, G stands for Grundstamm, which in German basically means it's the base stem. It's the no-frills starter stem, the dictionary entry look of the word. So it has a stem. And G stem basically means, okay, you can go on. We're not going to do anything to the meaning because it's basic, it's ground stem. Perfect is the tense. There are two, let's say, to start off with, let's say there are two tenses in Hebrew, the perfect and the imperfect. Now, these are strange words. If we were inventing grammar, we wouldn't use them probably, but perfect means complete, imperfect means not complete. That's basically what it is. So you could understand that if perfect means complete, then we would expect the perfect tense to be used with a past tense. So in the beginning, God created. God is a third person singular. First person singular is I, second person singular is you, third person singular is he, she, or it. If it's plural, it's they. But anyway, so this, nothing done to it is what we call third masculine singular. That means that the subject is a he, she, or it. Masculine means, well, okay, it's a he. And by the way, he doesn't mean sexually a he. It means grammatically a he. If you've had Spanish or French, you'll understand what that means. If not, just hang out with us. You'll catch on to all kinds of stuff before long. Singular means the subject is one thing rather than plural. So indeed, God created. He created. And then bara is the dictionary form of the word, which happens to be exactly this form of the word, because it's the starter stem. So Elohim is one of the words for God. You may know this. Elohim is interesting because it's grammatically plural. This hirik, yod, mem, im, this im ending, would normally imply gods. However, this is an interesting word. It is grammatically plural, and yet you can see it has a singular verb. Now, we're immediately tempted to talk about the Trinity, and that's okay. I doubt very seriously that the original author, Moses or whomever, knew about the Trinity, right? That's 300s AD, thousands of years, or not thousands of years, hundreds of years after the Pentateuch. So the Trinity was not understood yet. There are probably historical, contextual reasons why Elohim became plural, and we might talk about those later when we get to 127. But anyway, and that's like 27 weeks away, and I'm going to get tired of this. So we'll see what happens. 27 weeks, that's that's a half a year. Okay, so in the beginning, God created, but I'm not saying I won't do it. I plan to do it. Okay, this is the word for the. Ha and ha. This is a short A, ha, and this is a long A, ha. Hold the length out if you can. And so again, like in, the is attached to the word. Now this patak and doubling, that dot in the middle here, and there are two different kinds of dots in the middle. I'm not going to worry about it today. This dot in the middle is a doubling dagesh, we say. Ha shamayim. Usually translated heavens, but again, they weren't thinking of it the way we think of heavens. When I think of heaven, I think of something in another dimension, wherever God is. They thought of you go up through layers of sky. So God was up in the skies. So probably a more accurate historical translation would be then God created the skies. This is Yim, is a ayim, patak, yod, hirik, mem. Ayim is a dual, actually. Oh, yeah, it has the word the on it, the word the is called the definite article. In English, the indefinite article is a heaven. Hebrew doesn't have a word for a of that sort. So, but it does have a word for the. So this is the heavens. The skies would be more accurate. The skies. In the beginning, God created the skies. And he created the land. Again, we think earth, globe. They thought land. Same word, but probably land. So a more accurate historical translation might be something like, in the beginning of God created the skies and the land. Okay. So this is the word and. And is the. When you see a the on the beginning of a word, it almost always means and. There are a few very, I think, rare exceptions where vav isn't a conjunction on the front. But of course, vav doesn't always mean and. It can mean but, it can mean now, and we'll get into that kind of vav stuff later. But there you have it. A lot of stuff if this is your first time in Hebrew. But again, let me go ahead and show you how to pronounce this. And then I'll tell you the letters. Ba, re, sheet, ba, ra, e, lo, him, 8, ha, sha, ma, yim, the 8, ha, a, retz. So the normal way of saying it is, Bereshit bara Elohim, 8 hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Okay, so there's Genesis 1. Now, if you're just learning Hebrew, let me just start this week with the consonants. And if you could learn these consonants, you would be well on your way. So this is a beit, this is a resh, this is an aleph, sheen, yod, tav, beit, resh, aleph, aleph, lamed, hey, yod, mem, aleph, tav, hey, sheen, mem, yod, mem. Notice there are two different forms of mem. This is called a final mem. Has a certain form when it's the last letter, and has a different form when it's in the middle. It's a wild language. Get ready. Vav, aleph, tav, hey, aleph, resh, tzadeh. This is tzadeh when it's the last letter. It has a different form when it's in the middle. It has a different form in the medial or initial position. Well, that's plenty for you to get started on if you don't know any Hebrew. But we start with the letters, and I might link into this post a video I've done on the letters that you can go to if you want to go ahead and do a more systematic learning of the letters. Well, the game is afoot, right? Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the skies and the earth.